The mass stock market sell-off continues as market volatility continues to skyrocket and the VIX soars. Now, more and more people are starting to understand and starting to realize and basically becoming aware that we are going into recession, possibly a depression. And if you guys have been listening for long enough, you should be better prepared to make it through this economic turmoil and here's the and, you guys, hopefully make a once-in-a-lifetime profit. But unfortunately, the reality is most of us are just going to try to prevent ourselves from going bankrupt and from losing our house to foreclosure. Now, for some of us, this will be the buying opportunity that we've been waiting for. And I want to give you guys a quick update. I did look at a house yesterday. It was $110 a square foot with a pool. So it's getting very, very close for me, at least, to buy. Now, regardless, you guys, today we're going to talk about what's going on in the stock market and the labor market. And we're going to try to break this down and to make it clear enough in such a way that you guys better understand this and that you guys can adjust your lives accordingly. Here's the thing, you guys, fraud only sees green and red, money and blood. It doesn't care about political affiliation, class, or even race. It only destroys, lies, and deceives. And I've been seeing the people in the comment section, and it's kind of crazy, referring to me, you guys, to me as a Trump and Musk fanboy. But please understand this. I'm remaining hypersensitive and critical of their actions. There is no political class for what I am. I am for one entity, you guys, mom and pop, and that is the only thing that matters to me. And so having said that, good evening, you guys. Happy Tuesday. Mitch Vexler, how are you, sir?
I think where Travis is going, we're going to get into what's called the rule of law. And the rule of law affects everybody, and it should, regardless of who you are or what party affiliate you think you are with. And the bottom line is that the fraud does not denote who you are or what party you are with. Fraud is fraud, and it's happening to everybody. And that is why we are doing what we are doing, in essence, is to defend mom and pop.
100%. And we don't want to get political with you guys. We don't want to get polarizing. And the thing with Musk, so we get, commenters say really horrible things about Musk and that type of stuff. Now, I want to believe in him. I don't believe in anyone, quite frankly, guilty until proven innocent. But I think what's going on here and the reason for how polarizing things are is because the man is holding up a chainsaw, like he's emotionally doing this. Maybe he shouldn't do that because he offends people. And so again, I'm saying that because we're going to try to do the best that we can to stay completely neutral, explain the fraud so that you guys can remain safe and hopefully make some money through this thing. Is that fair to say, Mitch? Is that your goal as well?
With regard to Musk, everybody has to understand two things. Those who oppose without understanding what's going on under the hood or the fraud that is being committed against them should ask themselves, what if I'm being lied to by the press? What if I'm not being told the truth? Doge exists for one reason, and that is to get rid of the fraud in the system. They haven't said it that way, but that's the reality. They've got to back out the fraud. They've got to back out the bloat. And the point that our math shows is if this does not happen, this system will crater. It will crater on its own because the amount of debt that is out there, plus the compound cumulative effect of the interest on the debt, will blow this system to shreds. This isn't an option. We are at the tipping point. So the idea that somebody says, well, I don't like Musk and I don't like Doge and I don't like this, ask yourself just one question. What if the people that are in your ear, which would be the press, are wrong? Are you prepared to go bankrupt? Because that's what's going to happen. If it turns out that they're wrong and you listen to them and you don't take precautions, you are literally putting yourself in harm's way and your family. The fraud has got to go.
Yeah. And you know what, Mitch, I'll be honest. I understand it. If people are getting lied to, we can't really expect them to know the full truth. I mean, literally, the parties are saying opposite things. Yesterday, pretty much all day yesterday, I don't know what was wrong with me, but I started watching protest videos and people interviewing all of these, people so polarized. And I got to tell you guys this, okay? Whether you agree with us or not, most people in their minds believe they're saving the world. So if someone, is against me, in their mind, they think they're saving the world. Well, okay, that's a good feeling to have, right? But what I want to say is this: no matter what political affiliation that you're in, no matter what you're fighting for, I think as a country and as a community, what we really need to do is take a step back. Okay, understand, okay, we want to help people. We want to show empathy. Maybe the system uses our empathy as propaganda against us. But what we need to do is we just need to take a step back. Come to the table, take a look at the math, and start fixing things and go through this pain together. Now, again, it's hard to see that when, I get this, to their point, Mitch, when Musk is holding up a chainsaw. It was a cool chainsaw, but it doesn't look, when he's holding that chainsaw up ready to slash and gash, that he's making constructive decisions. And to those people that think that, again, what I want to explain to you is we don't know yet, right? And what's really important is we just settle down. We settle down and we control our lives to the best ability that we have. Regardless, Mitch, we're going to get started right now. But real quick, guys, if you can, like the video, share the video, comment on the video, and I would really appreciate it. Don't forget to go to the Empowerment Center. We have tons of free links and free courses made for you. Here's the VIX. You guys see the VIX is skyrocketing, and the VIX has been skyrocketing since about February 20th, when the honeymoon phase started kind of fading away. But the VIX, you guys, is absolutely skyrocketing. You really, really see that in this chart right here. So if you guys want to keep your eye on the market volatility, just watch the VIX. When it comes to actual stock market, pretty crazy stuff. Obviously, the Dow as of right now is down 429 points, S&P 31, NASDAQ kind of sideways. That has been going up and down, but the S&P is flirting with correction territory as the Dow tumbles and the sell-off worsens. This article that came out today, March 11th, Trump suddenly doubles tariffs on Canada metals to 50%. A lot of people are blaming what's happening on Trump tariffs, when the reality is what it appears that's happening is a natural correction that maybe is being sped up from Doge, maybe that is being sped up from Musk. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump said he had instructed his Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, to implement a new steel and aluminum tariff on Canada effective tomorrow, March 12th. Why it matters: the tariffs are part of an escalating trade war between the U.S. and Canada. The president started the latest conflict over what his administration perceives as a lack of sufficient action to stop the flow of illicit drugs such as fentanyl across American borders, fueling an opiate epidemic that has cost thousands of lives through overdoses. If he's going to do the 50%, we'll find out tomorrow. A few important elements of this article titled, U.S. Treasury Secretary says to brace for economic pain. One economist thinks he's underselling the fallout. In other words, the talking heads and officials are now starting to be honest with you guys. So no fighting, no more fighting. Let's just be honest and we'll get through this together. A few things here. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent made waves on Friday with his comment that the American economy is facing a detox period. Could we be seeing that this economy that we inherited is starting to roll a bit? Sure. And look, there's going to be natural adjustments as we move away from public spending to private spending. The market and the economy have become hooked, and we've become addicted, guys, to government spending. Comment below if you disagree with that. There's really no way to disagree with that when we look at the government deficit spending absent a recession. I mean, the deficit spending is absolutely crazy. That is true a comment no matter what your political affiliation, race, class is. Society is addicted to government spending. And there's going to be a detox period. There's going to be a detox period, Bennett, a former hedge fund manager, said during the CNBC interview. Employment should be from private companies, not from government. And I'm confident if we have the right policies, it will be a very smooth transition, he said, in an apparent reference to the layoffs of federal workers executed in large by the entity known as the Department of Government Efficiency, which is ran by Trump and his advisor, Elon Musk. Bessent has been making such comments in recent days in an effort to prepare the country for what he says will be a period of economic adjustment that, and here's the thing, you guys, that I want you to pay attention to, and this is why we got to think ahead. We cannot get stuck in our emotions, because he's saying this, that will be followed by rewards, okay? That will be followed by rewards. So if we go through the pain together, hopefully we could be rewarded together. There's another economic group that's saying he's just trying to calm people's nerves by saying that President Donald Trump tariffs might raise costs, but will be offset by the creation of more jobs in the U.S., as well as by a much anticipated GOP tax package that extends current tax cuts and includes new tax breaks. This is wishful thinking. I think the way trends are happening, We're actually looking more at a protracted slowdown in the economy with greater unemployment, in my opinion, and a 60% probability that we are headed into recession. Now, real quick, I wanted to scroll back up to here to show you guys this picture. You guys can see there's some protesters here. It's saying save our services. Like, I get it. That's why I'm saying it doesn't help that Musk has that chainsaw. We need these people, the people that don't understand, we need them to understand, because there are Americans too. These people right here, although maybe they don't know what they're talking about, are mom and pop. And so here's the thing. If you're protesting, understand what you're protesting. What they're saying is a CFPB fights for you. You can see that right there, okay? When I saw that, I was like, what is this guy talking about? The CFPB fights for us. And here's my case in point, okay? The CFPB is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Remember, you guys, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that approximately 957,000 loans in 2018, or 16% of all closed-end first seconds, exceeded the requirement of a 43% debt-to-income ratio. If they cared about consumers, they would have penalized these banks and warned consumers to be careful. You see this right here, DTI ratio above 43%. But instead of that, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau just issued 2 final rules to promote access to responsible. Do you see how they propaganda? It's all propaganda. It's not responsible. It means that people can get into higher debt ratios. Here's what it basically is doing. They're replacing the current requirement for general QM loans that the consumer debt to income ratio not exceed 43%. They removed that, you guys. They added to the leverage problem and the unaffordability crisis that's going on in America. They did not protect us. You guys can see here, CFPB proposes significant changes to regulations governing qualified mortgages. And if you guys were to read this here, basically qualified mortgage gives the lenders that are giving us mortgage protection from lawsuits. In other words, if I'm a customer and that lender before 2021 gave me a loan that exceeded 43% and I went into foreclosure, I can then sue that lender. That's what QM is for. And that's good. It holds them accountable if only Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac did not buy the loans that are in violation of QM standards. In other words, you guys, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the long arm of the Federal Reserve. If it wasn't for them, none of this would have happened the way it happened. But because we're in a system that is designed to leverage up consumers and to lie and to manipulate us, we are where we are. And so, Mitch, quick question for you. Can you explain to the viewers, and I'm sure you might get a little bit of hate. You guys don't hate on Mitch. We really are trying tirelessly. Mitch doesn't get paid any money to do all of this. So he is really trying. We are for mom and pop. You're going to get some hate though in the comment section, Mitch. So do I though. But can you explain why what Doge is doing should, and here's the should, we don't, in all fairness, we don't know what's going on in Musk's mind. I like the actions, but to me, the jury's still out. So can you explain why what Doge is doing should, that's the key word, have nothing to do with race, class, or political affiliation? What should Doge be doing and why?
100% of Doge's efforts should be spent on eliminating the fraud at all levels, be it both state and federal. They're obviously focused heavily on the federal. I don't believe they've gotten to the level that we're at right now with regard to the interest on the debt, which is much bigger than anybody understands and realizes. But just based on what we've got with the school districts, give or take, that's over $5 trillion worth of outstanding school district bond fraud across the United States. So look at it this way. Why would you, regardless of who you are or what your party affiliate is, or any affiliate whatsoever, did you sign up to go bankrupt as a direct result of the bond fraud that is being committed against you, to the point where certain school districts, i.e. Argyle School District here in Texas, has placed $243,000 of outstanding school bond debt on every single house in Argyle. And this morning, we just got in through the Community Impact, which is a local magazine. They're asking for more money. And they're saying, well, but we're growing. We're a community that's growing. We need more bond money. You can't pay what you have today. You have committed, you, the school district, have committed bond fraud, mail fraud, wire fraud, accounting fraud. You're in this up to your eyeballs. And rather than pay down the debt, you just keep, give me more, give me more, give me more. And you're hiding all this from the public. How is that beneficial, regardless of your party affiliate? How is that beneficial to your neighbors, your friends, your family? The answer is it isn't. You're setting yourself up. If you believe the narrative that's being shoved down your throat from people like the Community Impact, who didn't do their job, which is the press, to tell the truth, that is data and information that's being shoved down the public's throat without the balance of the story, which is, oh, well, wait a minute, your house has another $243,000 on top of your own mortgage. How are you going to pay that off? And the point is, it isn't. With regard to the tariffs, remember when you were a kid, you used to have the boogeyman beneath your bed. Well, who put that idea in your head? Obviously, it wasn't true. It was a boogeyman, right? Can anybody quantify right here, right now, today, how much it's going to cost for steel to go up effective today? Give me the numbers, give you the math. You should be asking, prove to me why these tariffs are going to have an impact. And so far, the answer is there is no math. It hasn't happened. So all of this nonsense in the press, Market Watch, is complete nonsense. It's got nothing to do with anything. These tariffs are being used as a negotiation tool. The point being, it's being manipulated and driven down your throat. It doesn't matter what side of the party you're on, or any party. The bottom line is, you've got to get into the math to understand what's really happening. The other thing is, if you want to cut to the chase, go read the criminal complaint that was filed with the DOJ. It's got everything in it.
You know, I try to think of ways for people to understand where we're coming from, Mitch. Like, where's my heart at? Where's my intentions? I try to do things for free. I try to give them overwhelming value, but the fraud is dividing us. The fraud keeps our country divided. I mean, we're a divided country, 100% divided country. You see that when we vote, when the Congress votes. I mean, the parties only vote for themselves. That's wrong. It can't be like that. So we have a divided country, and I fear unless we come together and create more unity, then nothing will change. The reality is we need to go through this together. And the more prepared we are to go through recession, the better odds we'll be able to get through it and potentially get a great deal. That's what I've been preparing for what feels like, I think, 3 years now. So, I'm ready to go. But here's the thing. It still hurts me when I see people confused because, again, like what I was seeing with these protesters, even though what they were saying was wrong, in their minds, they were right. And I don't define people as just two types of people, Democrat and Republican. That's not true at all. We are complex people. And the thing is, guys, it doesn't matter that we're complex, okay? We're emotional. None of that matters. What matters is you rebudget, you save your money, and you prepare to take advantage of an opportunity of your lifetime. Stocks are crashing. Home prices are going to go down. Pay attention to the math, not the media. And case in point, we're going to go into the CPI, but I want to ask you, when the article was referencing rewards, Mitch, what kind of rewards do you think, they're referring to? What should we wait? What rewards are waiting for us?
When you get rid of the fraud, you put all the players, be it an income property, mom and pop, it doesn't matter. The purpose of the uniform states sales tax is that it's uniform. You put everybody on the same playing field so that they can do what it is that they need to do. We've already gone through, Lord knows how many of these videos explaining why the real estate tax must be repealed in favor of the uniform state sales tax. Well, if you don't have bloated government and people taking your money, equity stripping your money out of your pocket and flipping it to cover off the interest on the fraud, which is the principle that they've created, everybody's now on an even playing field. You're not obligated to pay off that debt. A. B, you now have the balance sheet of your own house, your own property, be it commercial and or residential, restored to you. Right now, there is no difference between owning a house and renting a house. They have stripped the ability, the American dream, to own an American house. They've just taken it away because you have to pay tax in perpetuity to the point where you won't be able to make a profit on that house. You can pay it off, but every year you're paying taxes, that's nibbling away at your future profit stream. Your discounted net present value isn't there. Well, that's the advantage by getting rid of the fraud. And interestingly enough, I was literally on the phone yesterday with a fella out of New York. Travis, this is to your point. He is in the process of preparing a criminal complaint He's got good grounds. He's literally on the foreclosure doorstep in New York based on their law. He got screwed, no doubt. But he said, well, will the DOJ accept this from me? As if, because he is a Democrat coming out of New York. So in his mind, even though it's not true, in his mind, well, will the DOJ that is led by a Republican accept this criminal complaint? So I said, Stafford, do you hear yourself? The law is the law. It's the black letter of the law. The law is not there to see faces. It's the black letter of the law. That is what is to be enforced. That is under the rule of law. So he thought about it and he says, okay, so I won't have a problem? No, it's the black letter of the law. This is what the law is there for. The problem that we're all having, everybody, is the fact that at the state level, they've done an end run around their constitutions, and they're putting themselves in a box where, in fact, de facto, they not only violated their own state's constitutions, but they're violating the US Constitution. The black letter of the law, all this is coming out. Again, that's in the criminal complaint. Every single property owner in the United States should do themselves a favor and go read that criminal complaint.
You know, he is wrong, but I understand why he would say that. I mean, look how confusing things have been over the last, 8 years, and how it seems like our legal system has been weaponized, and it's like a dog and pony show now. And that's not fair. And that's very frustrating. But, when I think about it, Mitch, and I think of some of the rewards and why I've been waiting, why I've been so disciplined, well, because I have children and I want to survive, right? So that's number one. But I expect to find deals. I expect to find assets with lower prices. I expect there going to be some distress. I'm going to be able to patiently find deals for pennies on the dollar. And that brings me to my next thing. And I want you to add on to this. And I want to talk to viewers about what can we do to prepare for those rewards. Now, you talked about one reward is ending property taxes. That's a huge one. What you do, you go to the links, follow the links to the criminal complaint. But when it comes to purchasing assets, some of the things that I believe we need to be doing, like right now, 100% rebudget, especially subscriptions and food. Those are huge, huge items right there. We got to rebudget. We got to learn the math. We got to take the courses. We got to be patient, and we got to be focused on what we want. So creating goals is good. Creating dreams is good. Those dreams will help you shape your goals. Your goals will help you with your approach. And so really, there's not a lot, right? It's just a few things we need to do differently. Now, Mitch, do you want to add anything on what you believe people could be doing right now to get through a recession, but also to be able to purchase something for pennies on the dollar? Say someone's listening and they want to finally buy a house that they can afford. What should they be doing right now to prepare to purchase a house or anything in the future?
We only have a certain amount of time in these videos, and Travis hit on something on a video 2 back. And I want everybody to understand something. If you took your mortgage and you pay $300 a month in extra payments, if it's a 30-year mortgage, it goes down, give or take. You end up saving about 11 years off that mortgage by paying down $300 a month. That's assuming it was like a $290,000 mortgage. Well, when you run the math, it turns out that over the period that you're paying down that $300, you're actually making 4.25% by doing that. So you're actually making money. You're not only saving yourself the years, so you drop from 30 down to 19. Well, over and above all that, the amount of money, the rate of return on your $300 is about, as it gets up and ramps up cumulatively. So it starts very little, but by the time you get down towards the end of the mortgage, it's about a 17% yield because you're paying it down. Well, 4%, 4.25%, and you know that you end up owning the asset. If you have the cash, why wouldn't you do that? So you're preparing for your own future by paying down your mortgage to get that asset. And eventually, these real estate taxes are going to have to go. So It's just a question, who gets put in jail in order to make this happen? But it's got to happen. You've got to restore the balance sheet. So over and above that, the next question would be, what else can I do as a person who's concerned about this? Pay down the mortgage is number one. Number two, to Travis's point, How do I take advantage, A, buy a house, or B, buy an investment house down the road? When you start seeing values and you can attribute a rate of return to the investment, a real rate of return, not 5% or 6%. Because if you end up at 5 or 6%, I got deals coming across my desk by the hour with that type of nonsense. But the risk to reward simply isn't there. You think you're going to get 6%, but what if you don't? The what ifs are the problem. Well, it's the same thing. If you go to buy a house, you've got to get a true economic rate of return as if the entire property was bought and paid for cash. You've got to be protected. When you put pen to paper and you look at the real rate of return, if it turns out you've got a 10, 11, 12% yield on your money, okay, we can start talking. That'll give you what the real value is. That's something to focus on. You'll know it when you see it. But in the meantime, if you're stretching to get it, you're making a mistake. Don't make mistakes because people can't afford it, not in today's world.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that well said, Mitch. Let's move on to the next segment. And let's show the viewers now CPI or CPI. And I'm going to throw this up, Mitch. This is from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. What we're trying to do is we're just trying to clear up all the rumors. Did it change? Did it not? This is going to go into how many times CPI has actually changed. And it's been changing, since the 1930s, 1940s. It's changed multiple times. But, it's really important to get to the bottom of these facts, see how it's changed, see what they're doing to change it. The fact of the matter is, you guys, it's not real math. Whenever methodology is used, they manipulate math to favor a narrative. I mean, that's the only point for methodology because the math is the math. But when it comes to CPI, the math isn't just the math. In fact, CPI is incredibly manipulated. So Mitch, when you're ready, can you break down what you have found?
Okay, so I sent Travis an email this morning, and in the bottom of that email, it lays out why I keep saying the CPI is just one giant big lie. It is grotesque. And that is exactly what Travis is showing you right there, where it says the original consumer price index. This thing has been manipulated so many times, it's not even a price index. And I'm going to go through as to why. Originally, the CPI was determined by comparing the price of a fixed basket of goods and services for two different periods. In this case, the CPI was a cost of goods index. That was the COGI. Over time, the US Congress embraced the view that the CPI should reflect changes in the cost to maintain a constant standard of living. Consequently, the CPI has evolved into the cost of living index, neither one of which is right. The CPI is one giant lie. The economists have it wrong, and the public is wrong for not understanding that the CPI is one fabrication. The CPI measures the monthly price change of a basket of, quote, discretionary. We'll come back to this word discretionary in a minute. A basket of discretionary consumption goods whose price is borne by the consumer. There are 8 major categories of items that are included in the CPI coverage. Each includes both goods and services. Okay, remember that word discretionary. Food and beverages, housing, apparel, transportation, medical care, recreation, education and communication, other goods and services. Let's just focus on the word discretionary. Number 1, having a roof over your head is not discretionary. That one item alone shows the flaw in the CPI. 2, can anybody at the Bureau of Labor Statistics please show me where in the discretionary housing data is the overvaluation and overtaxation at the hands of the central appraisal districts from which in 2024, roughly $450 billion was stolen from homeowners, and that was done by fraudulently creating roughly $21.25 trillion in property overvaluation in the prior 5 years. Now, show me where in the discretionary housing data is the school district bond fraud numbers placed on each home in any school district. We have the school district bond fraud data. Why don't you? The BLS. The bond fraud totals over $5 trillion, and this is across the United States. Okay, BLS, It's not in your numbers. Therefore, the entirety of the CPI is one giant scam. It really brings into question, why does the BLS even exist? Fourth issue, every element listed in the CPI of, quote, discretionary items requires real estate. Real estate has been fraudulently hyperinflated, resulting in equity stripping of mom and pop. Where are those data points in the CPI basket? So if you go through the email, I just want to point out, housing is part of the basket and education is part of the basket. So can anybody at the BLS please show me the data, show you the data in your calculations of the BLS that includes 1.7 trillion of educational loans that may not be paid off? If education is part of your numbers, then how could you possibly not include the 1.7 trillion of loans that isn't going to be paid off? Then please explain how, if it was going to be paid off, that those people who are going to forgive those loans aren't going to owe the government more money. BLS, you're asleep at the switch and or you're lying. The position I'm taking, you're lying. The CPI is a grotesque lie. The point to all the above is that the public is being lied to. And when I say the public, again, it doesn't matter what side of the table you're on. It's everybody. The starting point or base year is inadequate when the underlying cost of hyperinflated real estate tax is not even in the equation. BLS, you blew it. For what purpose, to the benefit of the public, does the BLS exist? Based on everything I just read, nothing, none. If one wanted to track the legitimate data, then that should be done at the local level and compiled through what's called straight input. No outside interference, not somebody monkeying around with the numbers in Washington. The data gets compiled locally, straight input into a master database, accessible and accountable to all. That is how you get to the truth.
Case in point, let me go over the timeline of CPI and the changes so you guys understand. They're just manipulating the math. They're saying right here, the first comprehensive revision to CPI was actually the 1940s. But what's interesting is that's just the comprehensive revision. They're still doing multiple revisions in many different other years. So you can see right here, improvements made between 1940 and 1953. And again, they're using words like improvement, things like that, but 1953 comes and they do the second, they're only saying the second comprehensive revision, but they've made several revisions before that. So it's just a bunch of lies. Here's the 1964 CPI revision, the third comprehensive revision. They're saying improvements were also made, improvements, you see, since 1964 to 1978, but 1978 comes and there's another CPI revision. That is the fourth comprehensive revision to CPI. We move on here. There was also, as they say, improvements, right? So depending on their narrative, there was improvements from 1978 to 1987 as far as CPI. 1987 came. This was CPI revision. The fifth comprehensive revision for CPI was 1987. Again, they use the word improvements made between 1987 and 1998. 1998 comes for the sixth comprehensive revision to CPI. Improvements made between 1998 and 2018. So again, they're just saying, look at all those improvements, Mitch. I mean, there's a lot of these improvements made here. I mean, that looks like, I mean, if that's all the improvements made, then you can't compare anything past the year of 2000 to the past, because you just took out all of these facts, all of these things that went into the equation are now gone. So they've taken our ability to compare those things. 2018 geographic revision, what? Changes to CPI establishment frame from 2019 to 2020. I mean, honestly, I'm beginning to think CPI is just kind of like a public relations thing for the current administration, whether Republican or Democrat, I don't know, but that's incredibly manipulated. Mitch, since people can't get the real truth, and since you are always into numbers, obviously all the time, how much more do you think the stock market can drop?
If they don't get rid of the fraud, don't
Yeah,
put a
say
pot
they,
under this, or put a floor
or
under it.
say both. Say they do get rid of the fraud, and then they don't get rid of the fraud. How much more do you think the stock market has to go to fall?
If you don't get rid of the fraud, you're probably going to end up somewhere between a 60 and 70% huge problem. If you get rid of the fraud, you're still going to end up in technical aspects because things have just gotten so far overheated, and it's due to the fraud, right? They pumped trillions of dollars, and that trillions of dollars is now sloshing around in the market. NVIDIA, just so everybody understands, NVIDIA, since its all-time high, which was like 3 weeks ago, has lost over $1 trillion worth of its shareholder value. Well, okay, what happened between 3 weeks ago and today to the company? Nothing, right? Company exists. They're still going to build more plants. So what's really happening? Well, the answer is that the price to earnings ratio got so badly bloated from a technical perspective and a fundamental perspective, it's going to come down, right? In other words, the difference is the manipulation of the market because there was so much money sloshing around. When you print money, you create inflation. They inflated, they pumped the market up. Now it's coming back. Get the fraud out of the system so that you've got everybody on an even playing field. And then you don't have to worry about the fraud, and you don't have to worry about the interest on the fraud. And that's the problem. The school districts are collecting today more bond money to pay the interest. They can't pay the principal down. Ergo, you have to have a workout. Well, the fraud is what's now causing fear. And the more cumulative time that goes by, the bigger that fraud becomes by virtue of the interest on the fraud, to the point where it just simply blows to shreds. What we're saying is this is savable. The system is savable, but it's going to take Doge on steroids. And it's got to happen at the state level, and it's got to happen at the federal level, and it has to happen fast. Rip the damn Band-Aid off. Let's get busy and fix this. That's what we have submitted to the DOJ. And like I said, everybody would be doing themselves a huge favor to understand everything and read that criminal complaint. It's in your best interest.
Well, unfortunately, it seems like anytime a company, and it seems like every company or entity uses methodology, but anytime methodology is used, it manipulates the real math. And so if almost every data point has some level of fraud, some level of manipulation, whether it's just bad inputs, and everything is tainted, Mitch, then what should people be paying attention to right now?
If a person was truly interested, and it's not that difficult, it's actually very easy. Go to the grocery store and talk to people. Well, I have so-and-so as a friend of mine that's being laid off. They lost their job at X. And you look at the price of eggs, and you look at the price of bread, and then you look at gas fluctuating up and down. So you are living all these inputs. You don't need anybody to tell you what's really going on. If you just look around you and look at your friends, your neighbors, go to the grocery store, you're living it. The trick to all of this is, okay, I'm living it, I see it, I have a good job, I should be putting money away, I should be paying off my mortgage. The should-haves really should be musts. Ignore everybody around you, ignore the press, because they're wrong. We've proven it. The community impact this morning with this nonsense in Argyle that they're going to go raise more bond money when they have $243,000 outstanding on every house in Argyle. This is insanity. Never mind the fact that it's criminal. It's just out and out insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. They're delusional. Well, if you're in the Argyle market and you don't know what's happening to your own house and the value of your house, you've got a problem. This has to be stopped. And I would strongly suggest that anybody that's participating in this or knows about it, form a group, hire an attorney, get a temporary restraining order, and sue those people who are shoving this down your throat, joint and severally liable. You sue them for the damages. You cannot sit there anymore and say, yeah, we're going to take it because we're going to allow these people to put us into bankruptcy. By definition, they've already done it. Therefore, it is up to you as the property owner to pay attention to what's going on and get involved.
So, Mitch, last question here. How much longer do you think that the stock sell-off will last?
From a technical perspective, what should happen, given where we are today, you should end up with about 10 days, what they call a pullback. So it's 5 bars, 2 legs, about 10 days in total. So it comes back up, convinces everybody, oh, okay, the damage is done, and then starts going down again. And then you end up with what's called a measured move. This is all from a technical perspective. Does it mean it's going to happen? No, of course not. But we've had a really big sell-off, and market's down, or was down before. I can't look at it right now because that would be rude. But the point of the matter is, it'll pull back up and then it'll start heading back down. Typically speaking, when you have a parabolic run like we've had, you end up with a 50 to 61% pullback. Does that mean it's going to happen? No. Is the sell-off going to continue based on the amount of fraud that's in the system? You bet. Yeah.
Okay, there you guys have it. So whatever you guys decide to do, just be careful, pay attention, use the math, not your emotions. If you don't know how the math works, then learn about it. I mean, this is YouTube. You can literally learn how to be a brain surgeon on YouTube. There's no excuses anymore. It's time to empower ourselves. We need to stay united. Be nice to people. All right, let's just be nice to each other. I don't want to be a pushover here, but my God, man, like I'm seeing like how mean people are to each other, and yet everyone thinks that they're right. We need to knock that off. It's the system, it's the media, it's the politicians that are dividing us. I'm sick and tired of it. If you guys want to know if I'm Republican or Democrat, I've already told you I'm mom and pop. That's it. That's all, period. Final. That's all I care about. I am mom and pop. My children matter to me. Your children matter to me. All I want to do is what's right. And I want to hold our elected officials accountable for doing what's right. And I want everything to be transparent because, quite frankly, you guys, every single person is guilty at this point until proven innocent. I'm so disgusted at financial bias and the talking heads and how overly optimistic, the lack of caution, the lack of talk about median household income. I mean, I get it. I know why you're frustrated. But again, lean on us. Everyone settle down. And the most important thing, you guys, if you guys are out there investing in your lives, in real estate, whatever it is, you guys already know, we wish you luck and we hope you win.